Alright, hello everyone. If you can recall from our previous video, we were taking a look at the group frequency table. Now, in order for the group frequency table to work, we need to be given a large set of data. So the data is going to be large, right? So you're going to have 50 numbers, 60 numbers, and so on. So the data need to be large. Apart from that, the range has to be large as well. Now the range, you know how we get the range? The largest entry minus the smallest entry, that gives us an answer, and then that answer, if it is greater than 10, then we consider it to be large. If it's 10 or less, then it is going to be very small, and then we could use the on-group frequency table, right? So that was what we were the previous lesson. Now after that, then I give myself a list of data. As you can see, I took 30 test grades, and then I found what is the range. The range was 81. So that means the range was very large, which means I had to use a group frequency table. Now, why is it a group frequency table? Because if you take a look at the table now, within the first column, whenever you put the test grades, you're not going to put it individually, but you're going to be grouping it. And normally the groups are given to you, or it is started for you, and then you just need to continue and make sure that you include the largest number from your data, right? So this is what we have. So in this case, we have our group frequency table. We started off with the grades, and we said we started off from 11 to 20. Now, reason I did not include from 1 to 10 is because we did not have any person getting that grade, right? So start off from the smallest, and then use an appropriate interval. Like I said, it will be started for you, or the groups will be given to you, right? And then we said 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40, and so on. The tally and the frequency, they are basically the same thing. It's the amount of numbers that you can find from within the range. How many numbers or how many students got a grade 11 to 20? Now, it doesn't tell you that 3 students got a grade 11 or 3 students got a grade 20. It says that it's 3 students that got within that interval, meaning that it could be an 11, a 12, a 13, a 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, or a 19, or a 20. It could be any one of those, and it's 3 of them, right? The second one, it says from 21 to 30, and how many students got a grade within that interval is 4 of them. 31 to 40, there's 4 of them. 41 to 50, 3 of them. And then there's 1 student that got a grade between or from 51 to 60, right? 1 of them. That is what we have for the tally and the frequency. The midpoint, then we moved on to the midpoint. The midpoint, what we quickly do is we just add the lower interval with the upper interval, and then divide by 2. So 11 plus 20 divided by 2 gives me 15. 21 plus 30 divided by 2 gives me 25. 31 plus 40 divided by 2 gives me 35, and so on, and that's how I got the midpoint. Also keep in mind that for the on-group frequency table, the grades or the first column was the X. In this case, because we have an interval, we need to find an estimate mean, and then what we need to do is just find the midpoint, and the midpoint will represent the average, right? The average grade. So the midpoint is going to be the X now, and then the frequency remains as F. The frequency times X with the frequency times the midpoint. That's going to be 3 times 15.5, which gives you 46.5. 4 times 25.5, that gives you 102. 5 times 35.5, that gives me 142, and so on and so on and so on, right? Ensure you calculate what's the summation of fx and also the frequency. Now this frequency, remember that I said that it is perfect whenever you haven't done all of that. After you finish the frequency, the best thing to do is find what is summation of f. Why? Because it tells you that you have included all the numbers, which is 30 of them, and the amount of test grades that I had was 30, right? So ensure you do that. Summation of fx, that's going to be 1715. The cumulative frequency, remember I said it's the accumulation or the total from the frequency. Now the total up to that particular row. Now what's the total of the frequency up to the first row? The total of the frequency up to that row is just 3. It's just like getting 3 points for a game. The total points you have earned is 3. Game 2, you have 4 points, so the total points that you have earned will be 4 and 3, gives me a total of 7. Third game, an additional 4 points makes it a total of 11 points. 3 more points making a total of 14, and then you just keep on adding the next one, the next one, the next one, until you finish, right? Now notice, since I was adding that, it means that this answer here must correspond to the last number here, 30, 30, right? You will see it in a few minutes, but after you get the cumulative frequency, notice that we use it as place value, which means that the first, the second, and the third student, or there are 3 students that got a grade 15.5, which is the estimate of the interval 11 to 20. There's from the positions 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, there are students that got an estimate of 25.5, and then we have so on and so on and so on. Now what we want to do today is we want to take a look at the same data, but in this case we're going to find what are the measures of central tendency, the range, measures of dispersion, the interquartile range, and the semi-interquartile range. So that is what we have. Let's get started. Remember that creating the table for me was the one that was a bit of a time-consuming table, right? What we want to do is we want to take a look at the measures of central tendency, and then I'll show you more or less what you have to do. 1. Measures of central tendency. Now, from this small set of data on group frequency table and the frequency table, the measures of central tendency, we have, they are going to be the mean, we have 2, the median, and we have 3, the mode. Those are the 3 measures of central tendency, and then we want to move from there. What we want to do is we want to find the mean. We know it's x bar, right? Mean equals this x is the summation of f, x, right? Sorry about that one. It is the summation of fx divided by the summation of f, which you can see we already have the summation of fx and we have already the summation of f. The summation of f is the amount of numbers that we have, and then the summation of fx is the sum of all the numbers that we have, or the sum of 30 numbers that was 30 grades that was given to us or we collected from the questionnaire or whichever source from whichever source of getting the response. So we have it is going to be 1715 divided by 30. 1715 using my calculator. 1715 divided by 30, that is going to give me 57.1666 recurring. Now notice that I get 0.66666 recurring, so what I will do is say it is approximately 57.17, and I'll put 2 dp, meaning that I rounded off my answer to 2 decimal place, right, which is going to be the first and the second, but because of this is a 6, then we add 1 to make it 7. So that is what you have. That's the mean. The median, we're going to be using our formula, which is the half number. Now our half number, it means that we will need to say half of how many numbers? There are 30 numbers, so it's half of 30 plus 1. That plus 1 there, you will put it to all of those that where you have like the quartile 1, quartile 2, and quartile 3 and the median. You will just put plus 1 because it just makes the problem accurate, right? So we have, it is 31 divided by 2. 31 divided by 2 we get is 15.5, right? So if you find that in your calculator, you will notice it is 15.5. Now what is that telling us? This 15.5 is telling us that our median is between 2 numbers, right? When you get a 0.5 or you get 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 or any decimal, it just means that our answer is going to be between 2 numbers. Now what we do is we just say, alright, since I know that it is going to be between 2 numbers, I will use the 15th and the 16th number. I will use the 15th and the 16th number, right? So that is what I'm going to do. So apply the same thing. If it's quartile 1, it's 1/4. If it's median, it's half. If it is quartile 3, it's 3/4, and so on. But notice that what to do is the half number I want, half of which number? The total amount of numbers that I have, which is 30 plus 1 to make it accurate. 31 divided by 2 gives me 15.5. If you get any decimal, it just tells you that your answer is going to be between 2 numbers. And what we do is we take the whole number and we say it's the 15th number that we want and the 16th number that we want. So whenever you have that, then you just go back to the data that you have here. Notice that the 15th number will correspond to the midpoint 55.5, right? So it's going to be 55.5. Tells us we want the 15th number and the 16th number. We go to our data, and where we have the cumulative frequency, we find where we have the 15th number and where the 16th number is. Since we're going to be using the midpoint, because the midpoint represents now the grades, we're going to say that our 15th number is going to be 55.5 and our 16th number is going to be 65.5. So the next step is just to take those two numbers there and say, all right, it is going to be 55.5 plus 65.5 divided by 2. By using my calculator, I will say 55.5 plus 65.5, that gives me 121. Divide that by 2, it gives me 60.5. So my answer is going to be 60.5. And that is what we have, right? The mode is going to be quite easy. It's going to be take a look at the frequency. From the frequency, take a look at which one is the highest number, and then the highest number that we have is the 5. So that means it's by 5 times, and we're going to use the one that represents the interval. So by 5 times 75.5, right? So we're using 75.5 because that represents the interval that we have here, right? And then again, this is going to be a unimodal because it's only one number that appears the most, or one midpoint that appears the most. All right, so apart from that, we have the range. The range is going to be the largest entry. Now in this case, we want to take a look at the intervals. The largest entry or the largest interval is going to be the last upper interval, which is 100, minus the smallest lower interval, which is 11. 100 minus 11, that's going to give us 89, right? So that is what we have for the range. To continue, we want to take a look at the measures of dispersions. Measures of dispersion, and then our first measure of dispersion is the lower quartile. Our lower quartile, which is the 1/4 number, or Q1, which is the 1/4 number, right? This is always going to be our 1/4 number, lower quartile, and it is going to be 1/4 of the total amount of numbers that we had in our data. It's again 30, so it's 1/4 of 30, but to make it accurate, we're going to say 30 plus 1. So it's going to be 1/4 of 31. 1/4 of 31, so it's going to be 31 divided by 4. That gives us 7.75. So that's 7.75. Now, since again we get another decimal, we're going to say it is going to be our 7th number and our 8th number. Our 7th number and our 8th number. If we go to our table and then we take a look at the cumulative frequency, we have that the 7th number is going to correspond to 25.5, and our 8th number is going to correspond to 35.5. So what we need to do is find the average of those two, and we're going to say, all right, it is going to be 25.5 plus 35.5 over 2, and then again, let me go and use my calculator. That's going to be 25.5 plus 35.5. That's going to be 61. Divide by 2. That's going to be 30.5. Right? So that is what we have for the lower quartile. 2, we have the middle quartile, which is Q2, which is the half number. Now, if you take a look at this one, it says it's the half number, and if you take a look at the median, it says half number. So they mean the same thing, which means that whenever we have the median and we have already solved for the median, then what I could do here is just say it equals Q2, a half of the number, which equals the median, which equals 60.5, right? And then I'm done, because if I want to see my working, I just need to refer myself to the median and then take a look at what I did. Now keep in mind that if you get this wrong, then that means this one would be wrong as well, right? So you have to be very careful whenever you're working the median. Third one, we have the upper quartile, right? And then the upper quartile is going to be Q3, which is the 3/4 number. Now the 3/4 number is going to be 3/4 of 30 numbers plus 1 to make it accurate. 30 plus 1 is 31, so that's 3/4 of 31. 3/4 of 31 again, that's going to be 31 times 3 equals divided by 4 equals, that's going to be 23.25. Again, another decimal, it means it's two numbers, so that's going to be 23rd number and the 24th number. Again, we take the whole number from the decimal, right? So the 23rd number and the 24th number. If you would have gotten only 23, it means it's only one number, and it would have been only the 23rd number, right? If you would have gotten maybe 27th number, then, or just 27, it just means the 27th number. It just means that you're going to use only one number to be your median, right? So in this case, the 23rd and 24th number, let's go back. Now in this case, notice that the 23rd number and the 24th number fall within the same interval of the place values. So that means the two of them are going to be 85.5. So what I will do is just say 85.5 plus 85.5 divided by 2. That's going to give me 85.5. Right? There you have it. The measures of dispersion, Q1, Q2, and Q3. Once you have the median, you don't need to do Q2 again. You just need to say Q2 equals the median and equals the answer, right? Alright, let's take a look at the other two. The last two, we have the interquartile range, the IQR interquartile range. That is just Q3 minus Q1, right? Which is 85.5 minus 30.5. That's going to be what? So let's take a look at it. That's 85.5 minus 30.5. That is going to be 55. And then the last one is going to be the semi-interquartile range. That is going to be Q3 minus Q1, and then your answer divided by 2. So that's going to be Q3 minus Q1, we already have it. That's going to be 55. So that's going to be 55 divided by 2, and then 55 divided by 2. Use your calculator. That's going to be 27.5. And that is what we have for the group frequency table, right? Group frequency table, because you're going to group from a lower boundary to an upper boundary, because the range is very big, or the amount of numbers, the responses are going to be very far apart. The tally, the amount of numbers, the amount of time the number appears, and then so on. We looked at the measure of central tendency. That's the mean. Take the summation of fx divided by 2. get your answer, use your calculator. Median, it's the half number. That's half of 31 plus 1. Sorry, half of 30 plus 1, which is 15.5, and it tells you it's two numbers, so you need to find the average of those two numbers. Right? The mode is going to be the one that appears the most, or the most frequent is the frequency of 5, meaning it appears 5 times. That's 75.5. Right? The quartiles, lower quartile is the 1/4 number, 1/4 of 30 plus 1, which gives you 7.75, which means you have two numbers, you find the average of that, and you get the same thing. Middle quartile, you just say equals to the median, and you write your answer. And then the upper quartile, 3/4 of the number. Like the video, leave your comments, ask questions, and I'll email you as soon as possible.